everyone, hopefully you're having a wonderful night. So Call of Duty Modern Warfare 3 releases officially later today or tomorrow, depending on where you live. And I paid $100 to gain early access to the campaign, 100%ed it, veteran difficulty, all the collectibles. And my opinions run parallel to a lot of people. It is terrible, short, nonsensical plotline. Malkaroff is a huge downgrade from the original. It's just such a blatant cash grab that it's almost hard to even see anything of value in this expansion. Even the good things just get overshadowed by the fact that you had to pay $100 to gain early access to this basically overpriced DLC, which Jason Schreier, doing very good work, has uncovered that it was 100% true. Not only that, the developers had to endure very difficult conditions in order to get this DLC ready for the premium sale. And if you don't know, Call of Duty games are they're developed in 3-year cycles. That's how they're able to release them almost every year. Other studios handle the multiplayer like Raven Software, but when it comes to the single player, Infinity Ward, Sledgehammer Games, and Treyarch are kind of the 3 trifecta. They're the ones who handle the single player campaign. But a lot of people have seen even though they have great presentation and fantastic visuals thanks to Activision Blizzard's treasure trove of assets and resources, the developers are treated like, sweatshop workers. They have to churn out this stuff, and usually when the games launch, they have a multitude of issues, especially on the multiplayer side, with server problems, balancing problems, a lot of different things. And then they chalk up the multiplayer prices to huge amounts of numbers, like selling a skin like in Call of Duty Vanguard for $40. But talking about the campaign, it was just like the worst one ever released. Like at this point, it's almost impossible to defend it. Even IGN gave it a 4 out of 10. GameStop gave it a 5. I'm just like, how did GameSpot give it a 5? I'm just like confused about it, because it's just basically they recycled multiplayer assets. And again, when you read this article, which we're going to get into, you see that the developers did the best they could with the assets they were given. And I applaud them for that. Like the creativity, the tenacity, the skills that they had to showcase was incredible. But they deserve better. And the amount of work they had to put into this probably wasn't worth it. So, most Call of Duty games are developed in around 3 years, but Modern Warfare 3 was made in less than a year and a half, which helps explain the poor reviews. Employees worked nights and weekends to finish the game. Modern Warfare 3 was conceived to fill a gap in the Call of Duty release schedule. Yeah, they were supposed to actually stop doing yearly releases, but I guess with the Microsoft acquisition, those executives wanted that bonus they could get from before this all happened. For several months, many developers believed that it would be an expansion, but Activision insists that was never the case. The story goes inside the game development. And of course, yeah, they're like the second. I don't think anyone would believe a single word about game development from an Activision executive. Like, it's clear, like, these people do not play games. Like, a lot more reports are coming from Blizzard Entertainment about how Diablo, like, for example, Diablo, the original game, the creator of Diablo and the one who was trying to pioneer this game stated that it was rejected by so many people because, I don't know why my nose is itchy, it's because of the winter time, but yeah, it was rejected by so many executives because they felt like fantasy genres were going to dissolve and it wasn't the right time to release it. The only reason he was able to release the game is because gamers approved the game. People who play video games and understood what he was making are the ones who approved the game and said, hey, we know you got something special here and we're willing to risk it all. And that's how PC gamers got Diablo. So yeah, Activision executives they're not gamers. They're not one of us. They're just like by the numbers. That's why Modern Warfare 3 is an extremely scary thing, because if this thing sells, and again, I am one of the problems, I bought this for $100 when it should have been sold for $10 at most. Like, I say $10, but that's even stretching it, because when you have DLC like for The Witcher 3 and even Cyberpunk 2077 being sold for, I forgot how much it was sold, like $15, $20, it just shows the level of quality that can be done with DLC. I think the best example of DLC is actually the Borderlands franchise. Like, even if you don't like Borderlands 3, like I don't like Borderlands 3's story, I will give it credit that the DLC expansions look fantastic. I haven't played it, but I didn't see a lot of people who really hated them. They thought it was really well done, expansive stories and gameplay experiences, especially Borderlands 2. Borderlands 2 had some banger DLC, especially the one that they gave away for free. You have to pay for it now, but the final DLC that bridged 2 to 3, and they gave it away for free, and I was like, wow, this is amazing. So, yeah. So we're going to go through the article right now. New Call of Duty draws harsh reviews after rushed development. The latest entry in Activision Blizzard's popular Call of Duty video game series was made in half the time of previous iterations, a fact that many may be contributing to the spat of bad reviews about the game's storyline, according to people familiar with the development process. Critics have panned the game, the first bigger release since Microsoft closed its $69 billion acquisition of Activision last month, saying the storyline feels rushed. Most Call of Duty games are developed in around 3 years, but the bulk of Call of Duty Modern Warfare 3, which came out Friday, was made in less than a year and a half. That is amazing. Like, the fact they were able to do this in a year and a half, even with recycled assets. Dear God. Said the people who asked not to be identified because they were weren't authorized to speak publicly. Yeah, they can't. If they do, they'll get blacklisted and no one will hire them. The abridged production schedule proved stressful for the development team, they said. Call of Duty has generated more than $30 billion in revenue over the last 2 decades. Its most important series in Activision's portfolio, with thousands of developers across the world. New Call of Duty games will always top the charts, but some of the makers of Modern Warfare 3 say they hope the new corporate owners don't judge them too harshly for negative reception after a shortened development cycle that was beyond the studio's control. I don't think they're going to care because this was before them, and it's going to make money regardless. Even Advanced Warfare and Infinite Warfare that was panned by the public for being terrible Call of Duty games when they were revealed, still sold very well. Like, Infinite Warfare was one of the best-selling games of that year. Granted, I did play Infinite Warfare after years of it coming out, and it is actually a really good Call of Duty campaign. Like, I'm surprised. Like, I think it's one of the best modern Call of Duty games out there. It's far superior to Modern Warfare 3 and Modern Warfare 2, but Advanced Warfare, yeah, just skip that. That game was crap, but it's still better than Call of Duty Modern Warfare 3. But again, the executives who make these decisions at Activision Blizzard, Bobby Kotick, they don't play video games. They don't care. They just care about how much money this stuff makes. And like, if this game does well, it's just going to send a bad precedence, which sucks. The process was hurried because the process was hurried because this year's game was conceived to fill a gap in the release schedules following the delay of another Call of Duty title previously planned for 2023. Call of Duty Modern Warfare 3 was originally pitched to the staff at Foster City, California-based developer Sledgehammer Games as an expansion to last year's title, but it morphed into a full sequel during development, Bloomberg earlier reported. Yeah, basically confirming everything that we already knew. An Activision Blizzard spokesperson denied that Modern Warfare 3 was originally an expansion, said it was conceived as a premium game from the start. Yeah, that's BS. No one's going to believe anything an executive says. But more than a dozen current and former Call of Duty developers said that conflicts with what they were told at the time. Some of the employees said the plan was left ambiguous during the first few months of development, while others said they were directly told it was an expansion. All said they were under the impression it was an expansion until much later in the process, so they lied. Aaron Holland, the studio's head of Sledgehammer Games, said in an interview that some of the team members may have been convinced the new game was an expansion because it is a new type of direct sequel to the previous game. Unlike previous Call of Duty titles, Modern Warfare 3 allows players to transfer weapons and gear from last year's games. Yeah, every time they release a new Call of Duty game, basically anything that you earned in the previous game is null, with the exception of certain cosmetics. Like, some cosmetics transfer over, some don't, based on what game that you're playing. Like, if it's Vanguard, obviously an advanced weapon that is based in Call of Duty Modern Warfare is going to transfer over. So yeah, that's how you make your money. You set everyone back to zero and charge them $40 for a microtransaction that probably won't be useful in the next game. Some staff at Sledgehammer who had to work nights and weekends to finish the game, and you guaranteed they weren't given overtime. Like, this is Activision Blizzard we're talking about. And they felt betrayed by the company because they were promised they wouldn't have to go through another shortened timeline after the release of the previous game, Call of Duty Vanguard, which was made under a similarly constrained development cycle, and saw how much that game bombed. Like, that game was god-awful. The characters, the story, dear freaking Christ. From the first few months of the project, which was codenamed, I said condemned, it might as well be condemned, codenamed Jupiter, the story was conceived as a smaller-scaled Modern Warfare spin-off set in Mexico that would be more achievable on a short timeline than the usual globe-trotting escapades of a full new campaign. But in the summer of last year, Activision executives rebooted that story and told the developers that they instead wanted to make a direct sequel to Modern Warfare 2, centering on villain Vladimir Makarov and featuring missions all across the world. So, yeah, that is basically turning the developers on their head. Hey, yeah, just make this, it'll be easy. Like, and I can just imagine the developers being like, what the fuck did we get ourselves into? It's the classic idea of managers who've never worked in the baseline, in the trenches, know nothing about game development. I'm sure a lot of us have dealt with that in our jobs, where management who has no idea how ground floor work is actually operated tells you how to do your job. Like, God. The reboot ate into the schedule and forced the developers to complete a new campaign in roughly 16 months, the shortest development time for a Call of Duty game in years. 16 months? Dude, fucking hell. How the hell did they do that? As much as crap I give Modern Warfare 3, 16 months to make that? Holy crap. Wow, their hands must be killing them, like with all that typing. The game's story has received bleak reviews from the largest gaming outlets. GameSpot critic S.C. Dosser offered a mediocre 5 out of 10, that's way too high, and a declaration that the story doesn't do much of scene. IGN reviewer Simon Cardy gave the game a 4 out of 10, which is shocking because usually they just slap a 7 out of 10 on these Call of Duty games, and wrote that the game feels hastily put together, adding that if this is the quality we've come to expect from Call of Duty campaigns, maybe it's for the best that if a year or two taken to reset and raise this low bar back to its heights of the old. Now, that's not going to happen. If this sells well, they're just going to be like, hey, we can get away with this shit. I mean, they've gotten away with so much. Have you seen that they're charging $65 for horse armor in Diablo 4? Let's just say they have no ethics. The early review focused exclusively on Modern Warfare 3 story missions and didn't cover the game's multiplayer and zombie mode. Sledgehammer Halson said in a statement in the games was a labor of love and that his team has worked hard to deliver on this vision, which has been in the years of the making. Yeah, that is BS. No one's believing you. Like, I get what he's trying to do. He's trying to defend his employees, which is what the studio head should do, but, you know, there's only a certain level of BS that you can express to your community before they just say, we're not even dealing with this. Even the most hardcore, hardened Call of Duty fans who defend every little thing about these games, they can't defend this. Analysts said that even a critical flop probably won't change much about the series over the next few years. Yeah, this game's going to sell well no matter what. I don't see it having a lasting impact on the franchise or on any plans of Microsoft's plans with the franchise, even if it's universally planned, said Kevin Dow, an analyst with Bloomberg Intelligence. But a consistent drop in quality, starting with this game, he said, might drive Microsoft to shift its strategy and cut back on annual release schedule that Call of Duty has followed since 2005. I mean, look at how Halo Infinite turned out, and that's their flagship franchise. Master Chief is the poster boy of the Xbox brand. His face is literally on the Xbox Series X box. So you can see how things go there. Granted, there's always a chance to recover. Halo Infinite actually has recovered. People who've gotten back into the game said it's actually way better now. Not to mention the Forge community events look absolutely amazing. They still dropped the ball with it. If they had that momentum when the game launched, it would have been far superior, but, you know, and also look at Redfall, but then again, Redfall wasn't Microsoft's fault. Even the developers of Redfall, in an article Jason Schreier did, stated they wanted Microsoft to cancel that game, but they shipped it anyway. After Call of Duty Vanguard, developers at Sledgehammer had originally pitched a project codenamed Anvil that would be set in the universe in the company's futuristic 2014 game Call of Duty Advanced Warfare. Oh, no! No! That game does not exist anymore. Please forget that. That thing, and not to mention, with everything that Kevin Spacey went through, the last thing you want is to deal with that. You don't want the aftermath of that. Like, everything that guy's linked to, I haven't followed the what happened to him in the aftermath, but no, don't do it. At its core, even if it was a completely different actor in that position, it's still a crap game. It still is. Like, do Infinite Warfare instead. That is better. Anvil was shelved as the company was informed that instead of working on another Modern Warfare, the nature of the new release was a bit hazy, but the scope was ambitious and included an update to the popular Zombies mode, several multiplayer maps, and single-player campaign. Few developers were surprised when they were later told that the release would be a sequel to last year's Modern Warfare 2, but the shortened cycle took a toll of Sledgehammer staff. Developers also said they were frustrated at having to run their content by executives from Infinity Ward, the Activision studio that's normally responsible for Modern Warfare series. Staff on the game said they dealt with inefficiencies, waiting on feedback, and making significant and sometimes unwanted changes based on directives from above. Yeah, I can imagine so. Like, nothing against Infinity Ward, I'm sure they have no problem with them, but they head the Modern Warfare franchise, so obviously they're going to have say on where the narrative should go. You don't want them to change or do something that is against what they're trying to establish. So it also, yeah, inefficiencies, because you have to go to this developer, send an email, make a video call, tell them what you're doing. They have to get feedback, and they have to reciprocate that feedback and state what they think works, what they think doesn't. You see the problem. That's why they always allocate one studio to work on a certain series, such as Treyarch working with Black Ops and Infinity Ward working with Modern Warfare. So in this case, I don't know. Like, again, these executives aren't the people who make the games. They don't know the operations. They just tell people to do it, and if you don't do it, they replace them. Like, that's the sad reality of this. Like, so many developers are disposable in the eyes of these executives, and it sucks. But I'm glad this article exists. Jason Schreier does incredible work, and now we basically get the confirmation this was DLC. The developers were working on sweatshop-like conditions to get this done, and they were told to push out what is basically trash within the Call of Duty community for this annual release because they need to make another mint on their executive paycheck. Like, that's all I'm hearing about this. Like, developers, create this crap game with multiplayer assets. It has to be done immediately, and we don't care if you have to work weekends and nights and not see your family or not have any rest period. Just do it, because this is how burnout happens. Like, I'm sure a lot of us have probably experienced burnout when you look at a computer screen and you just feel like you want to vomit. You feel nauseous, you feel sick. I've been through that, and it was a new and very empathetic experience. I can only imagine what these developers go through. But yeah, it's kind of nice to get validated that this campaign is 100% just a cash grab. So even the most hardened defenders of this, because I'm sure they're out there, can't defend this, because now we literally have an investigative reporter who came out and said, yeah, 100%. Everything you assumed that this was problematic with this is 100% correct. So good job on that. Thank you to the person who gifted me this article, apparently, according to below. But yeah, there it is. I'm not sure if you can read it yourself, because Bloomberg does require a subscription in order to read this stuff, but hopefully you can. It's a great article, and yeah, like, dislike, tell me what you think in the comments below. I like to hear other people's perspective on this stuff. You've heard mine. I want to hear yours. Till next time, bye.